does human mitochondrial DNA evidence support the biblical time frame? So what are we talking about here? Well, let's talk about some facts. First of all, mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cell. They're little tiny organelles inside our cells that produce energy. They're very important for that. They're inherited maternally, so we get those from our mother, not our father. It has a circular genome, which you see there, of about 16,000 base pairs. So they have their own genome. Now, genome basically means the entire sequence of DNA, the information in that. You have a nuclear genome, which is what most people are familiar with, but you also have a genome inside each of those mitochondria. And it encodes several genes, which are important in what the mitochondria and what goes on there, as well as some regulatory region called the D loop that controls those genes. So that's just some basic facts about the mitochondria itself. Now, how is this related to the issue of a biblical time frame? Well, for that, we have to go to the mitochondrial DNA clock, a molecular clock. And don't worry, we're going to talk about that. And mitochondrial Eve, which probably a lot of you are familiar with. So first of all, let's talk about what is a molecular clock. Well, basically, it relates the time that two species diverge to the number of differences between their DNA sequences. So, for example, the greater the time there is since two species diverge, the more differences you should see, because they've been on their own path for a longer period of time. But the lesser time since they've diverged, if this is a short time, this should be much more similar. There should be less differences. Now, something you need to know about molecular clocks, they are not an independent measurement of time. They are based on certain assumptions about the past. They are calibrated according to certain things. The main things that they are calibrated with is that basically assuming that the fossil record is accurate, radiometric dating is accurate, and that humans have diverged from chimps. Okay, so right away we can see there's going to be some major problems here with the assumptions they're using to sort of calibrate these clocks, to figure out how fast this molecular clock ticks, so to speak. So that's what a molecular clock is. Now, what is mitochondrial Eve? Mitochondrial Eve is the maternal, most recent common ancestor for all living humans. And she is believed to have lived around 100,000 to 200,000 years ago, based on the fossil record, radiometric dating, things like that. So basically, we all have her mitochondria. Now, this is in no way reference to the biblical Eve. The evolutionists for 1 minute do not believe there was one woman and we all have her mitochondria, but rather that one woman from a larger population of women, for whatever reason, it's her mitochondria that we all have today. And so we want to make that clear. Now, how do these two things relate? Mitochondrial DNA clock and mitochondrial Eve. Well, a man by the name of Parsons, a scientist back in 1997, published a paper where he looked at the control region, that regulatory region, of mitochondrial DNA as a molecular clock. So he was going to use that to study some relationships. And what he expected to find was that there would be one mutation every 12,000 years. That's what he expected to find. Why did he expect to find that? Because based on the fossil record, based on radiometric dating, all of those things that humans diverge from chimps, that's what they had already assumed the rate would be. But they found something very different. Now, what he was looking at was modern human DNA. Mothers, daughters, grandmothers, granddaughters, looked at 327 different generational events and found that actually the mutation rate is much, much quicker. It's one mutation every 800 years. Okay, that's orders of magnitude faster than what they ever expected. Now, that in and of itself isn't so much of a problem, but it is a huge problem for them when you apply it to human evolution. Because the problem is that mitochondrial Eve becomes 6,000 years old.